All right, so we're going to do some Sherman trapping for Neotoma albigula, and that's the white-throated wood rat, which is a native rodent of the Sonoran Desert. It's perhaps more commonly known as a pack rat. Now, Sherman trapping is a way that we can capture the animals live, and this is a Sherman trap. They come in different shapes and sizes. This is a fairly large one because Neotoma are fairly large, and they sort of work a bit like this. So one of these is a door. When you put it down, it stays open, and then you put the trap wherever you want to put it. In our case, we're going to put them near pack rat middens, and you'll be able to see what the middens look like, but that's where the animals live. And you bait it with peanut butter and oatmeal because they find that absolutely delicious and irresistible. And of course they trot in. There's a little bridge in the middle of the trap, and they go to the back, and there's a mechanism, and I'll trigger it from this side, if you can see. And that wasn't very spectacular, we'll do it again. And they trap it, and they're caught live inside. So then tomorrow we can come check the traps. So we're going to do a technique called mark and recapture to estimate the population size of Neotoma on the Red Mountain campus. Now, the Red Mountain campus is about 48 hectares, and it's semi-disturbed Sonoran Desert with, of course, campus buildings, parking lots, lights and roads. But we've got a bunch of pack rat middens, there's one behind me, littered all over campus, and we're going to trap about 10 middens, and we'll put 10 traps at each midden, and then using this mark and recapture technique we'll be able to estimate population size. Now, the mark and recapture technique itself is fairly straightforward. This is day one, and we're going to set traps out, and every Neotoma that we capture tomorrow morning, we'll check the traps. If we've got a Neotoma in there, we will mark the animal. Now in this case, I'm going to use just a little Sharpie pen to mark inside the ears. All right, and then we release the animal, and then we're going to come back the next day, and we're going to trap again in exactly the same way. The animals that we trap on day two will consist of some animals that we previously caught and marked, as well as some unmarked animals. Now, the ratio of marked to unmarked animals on day two is going to be the same as that ratio on day one. So you can do a little bit of basic math to figure out the population size. All right, so let's set some traps then. All right, so this is Joey. Say hi, Joey.
Hello.
He's a student in the 182 class. He's an assistant today. Thank you so much, Joey, for coming out.
Yeah,
and what's that, Joey?
The bait for the pack rats.
And what is the bait?
I don't think you told me.
Peanut butter and oatmeal,
Yeah.
right? They find it delicious and irresistible because it's basically peanut butter and oatmeal cookies, right? Yeah, delicious. Okay, but without the butter. There's no butter, we didn't bake them. All right, so there's a midden under here, and I'm going to set 2 traps. So with each trap, I'm going to check the mechanism first, make sure it works. It should go, boom! That's it, that's what we're looking for. That's one. So ideally, you set the traps so that tomorrow morning when we trap them, they will be in the shade. Now we're going to come out fairly early, but if it was a hot day tomorrow, then we don't want the sun to hit the traps because the animals are cooked, and that's not good. But we set the traps 2 per midden in an area where it looks like there's been some pack rat activity, and I can see that there's some pack rat activity there, and there's some definite pack rat activity just here. All right. So to bait them then, we just take just a little bit. We want to attract them, not feed them, and we chuck it to the back of the trap and then sprinkle a few crumbs in the front. Right, that's it. First one done. Okay, so we're at our second pack rat midden then. The first one was underneath a creosote bush, And this one is a really interesting midden. It's in a really nice old ironwood tree, and it's an arboreal midden or semi-arboreal, which means it's located sort of up in the tree. And I'll point it out, there's some obvious signs, but if you look at the base of the tree, all of that bark, that's not natural. Just there. Right, that's completely not natural. That sort of the arboreal part of the midden that the animals put there, and you can see a little entrance to the where its little burrow is up in the midden there. There's probably another hole just there it goes in, and another one down there. So there are cavities in the tree that the animal is living in, but it regularly grooms the midden. It places sticks there, it places things that it was eating last night, because it climbs up into the tree, goes to the ends of the branches, clips off little twigs, and it eats the bark and the leaves of the little twigs. And I'll show you some of the clipped ends of the twigs as well, which is another sign of pack rat activity. And the other real telltale sign are the feces that are littered on the ground, and you can just tell. So I'll get some traps by this ironwood tree then. That's it. So this is another small ironwood tree, but it's a very old ironwood trees. So it's hard to age ironwood trees, but if they don't receive supplemental irrigation, they're growing in the desert, and the trunk at the ground is greater than a foot, they can be between 400 and 800 years old. So this might be a tree that's in excess of 400 years old. It's not doing very well. We've had some real dry summers and some dry years in general. It's probably why it's not looking so good, but this is amazing pack rat activity, and this is the first time I've seen this on this tree. But you can tell how hot and dry it's been, because now they're starting to gnaw away at the bark, and that wouldn't be, you know, a choice substrate for them to eat. There's not a lot of leaves on the tree. So this is much more of a classic pack rat midden. You can see all the sticks nicely piled. They seem to see of a roughly similar size and diameter. It's just an absolutely classic pack rat midden. So even though there's usually only one pack rat in each midden, sometimes there can be two, and that's why we're putting 2 traps at every midden, so that we don't undersample the animals that are there. This is a saguaro that obviously fell down. It fell down I think about a year ago, and this is sometimes a good place that you find middens. So this is a new midden, it's not an old one. Some of the middens underneath the ironwood trees might have been there for as many years as the ironwood tree's been there. So the ironwood tree we just put traps under, there could have been middens under there, successive generations of animals, for several hundred years. But this one, it's a relatively new sort of habitat for them, and I've not seen this midden before. It's only about a year old, so I think it might be fun to put some traps here. So this one's a funny old midden. It's under a creosote bush, and it's not a big midden, but it's been here for years. And you might be able to tell in this area it's a bit disturbed, and that's because there was an old coyote den here. I don't know how smart it is for a pack rat to build its midden right next to a coyote den, but you know, maybe the coyote den was abandoned a long time ago, the earth was soft and it was easy for it to get there. But we'll trap this one. Good. So what's that, number 5? Right, so this is another midden right under and in an ironwood tree. And this ironwood tree, as many of our ironwood trees are, not all of them, but it's growing in a little wash, and this wash will flow with water, of course, when it rains hard. And you can see down there's some of the sticks of the midden, but this one also is semi-arboreal. So all of these will get washed away when it flows, but the animal presumably is safe up in the arboreal, up in the upper part of the tree. And this you can barely even see as a midden. Look at that, just a couple of sticks up there, but there's lots of little holes into a cavity of the tree, and there's some other really nice telltale signs. You've got just here on these calloused part of the trees where the animal's been gnawing, And you know, you can imagine subsequent generations of pack rats occupying this ironwood tree for several hundred years, and they just gnaw back at this stuff, and the ironwood tree of course responds by trying to grow to defend itself. Anyway, very, very cool. All right, so what is really nice about this tree is you can see super nicely some of the clipped ends of the twigs. So this little batch of twigs here, I'll snap one off so you can see. If you look at the end of every single one of these twigs, it looks like it's been clipped at a 45-degree angle. And of course it hasn't been clipped. Maybe we can come out to the edge of the tree. There's a really nice one. Yeah, look at that. See the way it's like whitish in color there? You can see the wood color, but you can see little gnaw marks, and that's been clipped off, and the animal then takes that little twig back to the midden. It'll eat the leaves and sometimes deposit it on the outside of the midden. There's an old twig that maybe a couple of nights or a couple of weeks ago the animal clipped off the tree, ate all the leaves and just dumped it there, but there you can see all the thorns as well. All right, good. All right, so we're under another ironwood tree, and this is kind of an interesting midden. It sort of moves around a little bit. You've got some part of the midden seems to be arboreal up in the top part of the ironwood tree there, and then you've got the main part of the midden where all the sticks are dumped over there. So I'm going to see if you can see where it's most active. All right. All right, so this is a cool one. We've got a saguaro, big old saguaro, right next to an ironwood tree, and we might need to get ready to run because there's a feral bee colony usually in the base of the saguaro. I think they're friendly. They've been there for 20 years I've been on campus, but I'm gonna have a little peek. Oh, there's bees in there, but they're friendly for now. All right, see all that? So that's pack rat feces. You see the shape of them? Go on, see if you can get a bit closer. Closer. That's it, perfect. And then follow the flashlight. Look at that. And that goes, see that down in there? So that's the entrance to the burrow. And right now, there's almost certainly a little neotoma under there, listening to every word we're saying. Doesn't understand any of it. But all right, so we might trap this little guy tonight because we know exactly where it's going to come out. That's it. And when they're in the trap, they just get a free meal and free safe lodging. Can't beat that. Look at that. Can you see them in there?
Yeah.
Too
You getting a good
cool.
shot, Cajun?
Yeah, I got it.
It's been there for a very long time. They seem to be friendly. All right. So this is really sad. This is obviously a dead ironwood tree, but when I first got here 20 years ago, it looked pretty much alive. And over the 20 years, it's just sort of slowly died back. And that was the last branch with any green stuff on. Now it's completely dead. And that's a real shame. And you've got to wonder what's causing that. Is it just it reached the end of its life? Or have we changed our environment and the ecosystem so much that even these kind of plants can't hold on and they're slowly dying? So when we monitor populations of organisms like the pack rats that we're monitoring in this exercise, and we monitor them over a long period of time, we can see if their populations are increasing, staying steady, or decreasing, and that's very often an indicator of the quality of the environment or what's going on with the environment. And you've got to think, if ironwood trees are slowly dying because of environmental change, does that mean our crops are next? And if pack rat populations are maybe decreasing, does that mean that we're next? So monitoring these organisms in our environment is a really important tool to look at how the environment's changing and then perhaps how we need to remanage the environment. All right, so this is our first midden in a Palo Verde tree. It's a Palo Verde tree, and this one has fantastic examples of pack rat activity where it's clipped these little twigs. Look at them, you can just see they've all been clipped. And then if you look down here, you can see what the animal's done with them. It's taken them back to this spot, gnawed away at the bark or the leaves, and that's its leavings. So let's put a couple of traps by this one. This is a really nice active pack rat midden. It's been here for the 20 years that I've been here. Whoop. All right, good. That's number 9. All right, so this is, I think, my favorite ironwood tree on the whole of campus, and this is my favorite midden. I've been trapping animals here for nearly 20 years, and in this one, we'll see what we get tomorrow. Sometimes you don't get anything, but I usually get a male, but sometimes I get a female, and the female I sometimes get is the one from the Palo Verde tree. So it looks like he's got a little girlfriend that comes visits every now and again, which is kind of cute. This is an ironwood tree, obviously, but let me look down here. This is not ironwood, this is creosote. And there's a little pile of creosote, and you can again see that nice little clipped end. And so the pack rat was maybe a couple of nights ago munching on some creosote. Maybe just decided to vary its diet a little bit. But creosote is not a nice thing to eat. All right, so we've set our 20 traps, and tomorrow morning, just maybe shortly after the sun rises, we'll come check all 20 traps and see what we've caught.